Come explore our world of coffee. DeLuna Coffee features over 24 different blends. DeLuna's unique roasts can be delivered ground finely for drip coffee makers, coarse for the craft crowd, untouched as a whole bean, or even in convenient K-Cups. Founded in 2014 by the Lemmix family, Ed and Brett are FSU alums and boosters who are extending a special offer to all listeners. Use the promo code WARCHANT15 for a 15% discount. Visit DeLunaCoffee.com and check out their Facebook and Instagram.
From Tally to Cali,
It's time
to wake up.
Wake up! Wake up!
Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, fueled by DeLuna Coffee.
Coffee's for closers only.
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hajavandi.
And Corey Clark.
Just hear those sleigh bells jingling, ring, ting, tingling too.
Wake up! What is going on? It is Wake Up Warchant. It is fueled by DeLuna Coffee. DeLunaCoffee.com. Come explore our world of coffee. DeLuna Coffee is run by a host of fantastic Seminoles, the Lemmix family, Ed, Brett, the matriarch, Courtney. Check out their website, DeLunaCoffee.com. Use the promo code WARCHANT15. People helping people. That's what we try to do here on the website, and or the podcast, rather. Get yourself some coffee. Help out some Noles. Make your day better. Shining bright. Christmas season starting to soak in and sink in for all of us, hopefully. Warchant.com, the ultimate Seminole sports source. Promo code WARCHANT30 over there. Hit the thumbs up. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Come on. You guys, you don't, Corey, do the people know what's about to get dropped on them? Not this Wednesday. Not even next Wednesday, right? We're still 2 weeks away from it? No, a week from now. Well,
Yeah,
not a week
next
from now.
Wednesday.
Yeah,
9 days from now.
9 days. Thank you, Corey. Man, we are going to rival the worldwide leader. I mean, we are the Seminole Nation leader. We're going to be going, I think, 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. live, just wall-to-wall coverage. We'll take you, Michael Langston and myself, Tom Lang, we'll take you from 8 to 1, and then from 1 to 3, Jeff Cameron and Tom will bring you folks home. So signing day should be fun. Didn't get the greatest of news on Saturday, but signing day itself should be fun. Corey Clark, here he is. So everybody, what's going on, Corey? How are you, man?
What's going on, Aslan? How you doing? You doing all right?
Good.
All right.
Yeah.
Good.
Are you stoked for National? I know you're not the recruit, Nick. I mean, after you wrote your acclaimed book, you kind of hung up your recruiting whistle.
Right.
But like you excited at all, man? You know, the energy, the excitement. Travis Hunter hopefully putting pen to paper and making it official. 9 days.
Yeah, I'm really excited for that. Like if that, and again, there's no reason to think it isn't happening. When and if that happens, I guess I'll say, yeah, man, that's a huge deal. I'll be very, very excited. And hopefully there's a couple more guys coming. This class is top 10, 12-ish, and then let's see what the portal brings, man. Let's see what the. Hey, by the way, as we record this show on Sunday night, I got a name to throw out at you.
Do it.
This wasn't in our pre-production meeting, but it just dropped.
Ooh.
The quarterback from Indiana.
Penix.
He's in the portal.
Ooh.
He is a Tampa native.
He is. He was being recruited by Willie when Willie was here. And, I mean, Indiana was already kind of ahead of the game with him, but Willie came on late and tried to salvage something with the quarterback. But, yeah, he had a hell of a 19 season last
20.
2 years.
Wasn't he good in 20? Or was it 19?
I think it was 19. I think 20 was the COVID year, so I don't think he was all that. I don't think Indiana was all that great. I'll look it up though. But yeah, that's appealing. That's appealing to the senses. But I wonder who you can get, Corey, because we retweeted it, and Kenny Dillingham tweeted out a photo of his bag at the Tallahassee airport with heading to Vegas, wheels up, and he had a hat attached to his carry-on baggage. And the hat was the officially licensed Jordan Travis apparel. So, I mean, if you know your OC is so in love with the quarterback that he's paying to wear his name on him, I don't know how good of a shot you got to come through on this, but
not only that, they had it was him and Fuller and two other coaches. I can't remember off the top of my head. It wasn't Norvell, but it was Dillingham, Fuller, and two other coaches that were getting on the private plane to head out on a recruiting trip. It was a picture of them standing in front of the plane, and Dillingham was wearing the 4th and 14 sweatshirt.
Oh, really?
So he's really funneling money to Jordan Travis's startup. So yeah, that maybe a quarterback in the portal is like, I don't know. I know you say that you have a spot for me, but it sure seems like the OC he really likes his quarterback. Like, he's funding his business right now. Like, if 4th and 14 make, who knows what that is. But I would think somebody like Penix, to me, is like the perfect example. That would be a perfect fit. Like you said, I know he wasn't Indiana was terrible this year. He went way down. I know he had the great game against Penn State.
That was last year. You're right.
It was last year. Okay.
Yeah.
So he's had moments, and he's proven he's a pretty big time quarterback. So you would think he's the guy that wouldn't be scared away from somebody like Jordan Travis, but also Jordan Travis wouldn't necessarily be upset that you brought him in. Not that, like we said, not that you should. Well, at least like I said, not that you should really care about Jordan Travis's feelings, but. If somebody like him, and I'm not saying they're going after him. I'm not even. That's just me completely speculating.
Well, hey, Brent Venables might be going to Oklahoma, Mr. Just Speculating. The Coracle doesn't speculate, everybody. The Coracle spits facts.
I'm just telling you, it's a guy with a lot of experience at quarterback. He would be a great guy to add to the team. He's played a ton of games,
and it translates.
Played in some big games,
right? If Jordan were to get hurt, Michael's much more of a
now he doesn't move.
Tate
right. He doesn't move quite like Jordan Travis does, but he can move, and he's just played a lot of football, and he's been good here recently. But that'd be an incredible depth that you'd be adding at that position. That's a big name. Again, I think you would think he'd rather go to a place that has an opening as opposed to a guy that's sort of entrenched and the OC's wearing all his merchandise. But still, you never know. You never know. I'm just throwing it out there. Kid from Florida just entered the portal as a grad transfer.
Yeah, actually a lot going on, even though it's the off season for us. Obviously bowl season going on. Florida State now down to 17 scholarship tight ends after Carter Boatwright announced he was going to go into the portal on Sunday. Product out of Colquitt County High School, Moultrie, Georgia. Maybe some special teams work. I don't really know what his snap counts were here the last few years, but bit of a log jam at that position, so best of luck to him in his future endeavors. Ira Henry also, I don't know if we mentioned that on the show last week, but also entered the portal. Another reserve guy, so those things are sort of happening. But above that pay grade, our own Ira Schofel is starting to reach out and hear from his sources about the ongoing athletic director search, Corey, and it sounds like Louisville target Vince Tyra is kind of, I think Pete Thamel for Yahoo said that it was a bit of he didn't say dark horse, but it was a bit of a surprising name perhaps being added to the mix, and it sounds like there's traction building, some momentum where he might be the guy to get the job. And bit of an interesting background. I think some schools have tried this and gone outside the like the lifelong, I don't want to say bureaucrat, but the lifelong sort of steward of collegiate athletics. Business background mainly. I think he's been an AD for the last 3 or 4 years. Pitched at Kentucky, so maybe not your next Dave Hart perhaps, but and he made the Chris Mack hire, which I guess in hindsight people might not be in love with, but at the time I don't really know how. I thought that was a really good hire. I mean that about checks off all the boxes you want in a basketball search, but maybe basketball search are a little bit different. But that's what Ira is hearing, our main dude, our managing editor over on warchant.com. What do you think about that one, Corey, huh? Vince Tyra, we're going, Miami might be going and we're just poaching from each other in the ACC. It's becoming incestual like the SEC, man. It's terrible. Yeah,
it would be it'd be interesting because, like you said, I think he'd only been an AD for, Louisville's his first AD job. He was like he was in finance, like he was an investor, like a global marketing group kind of guy. But had a history with Louisville. Is from Louisville. Is from Kentucky. Look, if you're gonna judge somebody on their hires, Mack and Satterfield haven't been great, but at the time, Mack was. He had just coached Xavier to a number 1 seed in the NCAA tournament. Now they got upset by an upstart from Tallahassee, Florida. You guys remember that the round of 32. PJ Savoy hitting that 3 from the right wing to give him the lead with a minute left. But that was a great Xavier team. And it's, so that was about as good as you could think Louisville would do. And Mack's been okay. He hasn't been terrible. They get to the tournament more often than they don't. But, we'll see. Ira's kind of report on that too, that could be likely. It could be happening soon. It could happen as early as today. And it would be good to get that done, like just to get it done. And it's not like you're going and getting an AD from, that has never done it before. He's done it at a level. He's done it at a big school. He's done it at a high level. So he has experience. And, get that Papa John's money, right, Aslan? Right? Is that still a thing? Can you still get Papa? Is that still the name of the company, Papa John's?
It is.
Okay.
It is.
All right.
It is.
That guy's probably looking for new schools to donate to, because Louisville just put him on the blacklist. So, but he came into Louisville when they had all the Patino stuff, and the guy before him, Jurich, had really left a mess in some regards. And Satterfield's been okay. That wasn't a terrible hire. They're in a bowl, right? I think.
Yeah.
And then Mac's been okay. Now I know people might roll their eyes at this, but their baseball team's been great. Their women's basketball team is really good. So he's shown he can be a well-rounded AD and make some pretty good hires in that regard. And yeah, man, it's you don't expect them. You hope that he's not going to be making a football hire or a basketball hire for a good long while.
I will say that baseball was kind of rolling before he got there, but point taken, he hasn't at least pushed them off a cliff or anything bad like that. So weird thing, doing some of the research apparently. So Tom Jurich, or was it Jurich or Urich? Soft J,
I don't
hard
know.
J.
I would say Jurich probably.
Okay, we'll go with Jurich. So apparently part of his golden parachute. I mean, he got like a really nice deal after they got rid of him, but it included 8 tickets to Louisville football and basketball games, and they were like on the 50-yard line, and they were behind the home team bench for basketball, and then they moved him to closer to the goal line and then closer to the baseline. And then part of the contract stipulated that he could not publicly – there was the you can't badmouth your employer on the way out. I forget the name of the clause, but it's something basically where you can't there was like a disparagement clause where you can't speak ill about it. But his son wrote this email that then became public, like ripping Urich for moving the tickets, basically moving the seats. Wasn't happy about
ripping
that.
Tyra, you mean?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. Urich's son wrote the email to Tyra, basically saying like, how dare you move my family's seats?
Well, guess what? Yeah. Urich isn't invited to Tallahassee events either. You don't get to come to any Florida State events either, buddy. Sorry.
Moving down from the top floor of the Moore to, I think, second floor. Is that where the football team does most of their stuff? For now, until they get their palatial football-only facility. There was some good context clues. I think Noles 6, I think he might have been the first one to at least post about it with his discerning eye. But there were photos of the staff out at Niceville High School this weekend making a visit. And I can't pronounce the young man's name, so I'm not going to even try to butcher it. But if you know Niceville football, you know who he is. And Randy Shannon was there. And Randy Shannon, as we all know, is an analyst. And part of the role of an analyst, there's some boundaries. And one of them is that you can't do off-campus recruiting. And so you wonder, well, how did that happen, huh? He's an analyst. Well, apparently Chris Marve might be in the market for a new job. I don't know if that's the right way to phrase it, but apparently with that on-field position that you have, they've sort of moved it, that the sort of perks that come with it, which probably isn't a good – the responsibilities of it. They've moved it to Shannon for the time being and pulled Marve off of it. So that allowed Randy Shannon to go out and perform those sort of duties, which I don't think that's because, like, Chris Marve's under the weather. I mean, I wouldn't think you would shake something up like that, although maybe shaking up is a little bit of a dramatic sort of term. But to do something like that sounds like that's smoke, or looks like that's smoke in terms of possibly a staff replacement. That was interesting, I thought.
Yeah, and when it comes to Marve, I mean, you look at what the linebackers have done the last 2 years. I think we can all say Deloach has been a solid. He's made solid improvement. He became a legitimate, decent ACC football player. I don't know that you could say that about any of the other linebackers, but more importantly, man, it's a position coach. And position coaches, it's an important. I'm not trying to diminish how important it is to coach a position and coach it well, but you've got to bring in players. That is your job. That is the number one job of any college position coach, is to bring in players at your position. And it just hasn't really materialized at that position. You look at the recruiting boards, you look at maybe somebody that said no this past weekend, and you're like, okay, if this guy can't bring in the necessary recruits to bolster this position, maybe there's somebody else on staff that can coach this position and start bringing in recruits, because that's the number one goal. And look, man, it's not just a Marve issue. Florida State hasn't had a big-time linebacker in a long time. I mean, since
8
years, man, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's crazy at Florida State not to have anybody. I don't know if they had a linebacker drafted since Telvin.
I think Terrence went 5th round. I'll look it up, though.
I know Terrence played in the league. I didn't know for a while with the Chiefs. I just didn't know if he was drafted or not. But it has been a minute. It has been a long drought. They've had more offensive linemen drafted since they've had a linebacker drafted.
He went undrafted. I was wrong.
I mean, that's crazy. It's very similar to wide receiver, actually, but we hope that there's some, actual players coming to the wide receiver position. But at linebacker to be this bad for this long, or this, I don't want to say bad.
Underwhelming.
Yeah, right. Yeah, just this unimpactful for this long is crazy. I mean, I don't know how many linebackers Florida and Miami have had drafted in the last 8 years, but I'm guessing it's more than 0.
Yeah.
So that to me is a that whoever comes in, whether it's Marve, there's nothing official there, or whether it's Randy Shannon taking over that spot, whether it's somebody else coming in, who knows? You've got to get somebody that can bring in some players to that position. I mean, you just have to, because this is crazy. It's bordering on absurd how limited Florida State's been at that position for so long.
Yeah. I mean, I was going to say I don't know how many difference makers are out there a la Jermaine Johnson. I know that Henry Toa kid from Tennessee, I think they might have gone after him, but I mean, he went to Alabama. It's hard to go heads up against Nick Saban on a guy. So, and then I do think that I think the Lovett and Jarian Jones transfers, he might have had some help in that because he was at Mississippi State when they were there. But I mean, yeah, there hasn't been. I mean, I don't know. Steven Dix. I think that was before they got here. He might have been 19. But DJ Lundy, Kalen DeLoach, those are the guys they're rolling with. I mean, maybe they're not playing at the level you would hope. Maybe it's Wesley Basante. Maybe that was one of the things where he thought, okay, go get a guy from in-state that could be a difference maker. Michael Langston was raving about that kid all year long about how talented he is and how good he could be for perhaps in this scheme. And he committed to Miami on Saturday. It was between Miami, Florida State, and I forgot who the third was, but maybe that was one of those things where it's like, all right, well, if you can't pull this kid, then we're kind of spinning our wheels here. But
right, especially with Miami's current situation,
yeah.
Which again, by the time you listen to this, it might have been worked out. But this is one of the crazier coaching situations I've ever heard. Right, like Manny Diaz is out recruiting for Miami, Cristobal is out recruiting for Oregon, and yet the rumor is that Miami has offered Cristobal a job, and he's probably going to accept the job, and yet nothing has been decided, and they're out recruiting for different programs. So the whole thing is like you've offered a job to somebody without firing the coach. You already have somebody employed, and you've already offered the job to somebody else. It's just this isn't how it normally plays out. So the fact that you lost a recruiting battle at this moment, at this juncture, to that program, especially for a position of extreme need, yeah, it isn't the best sign for sure. By the way, as we were just talking, Bruce Feldman, and again, we're doing this at 8:30 on Sunday night, he just tweeted that per a source, Brent Venables is the new head coach at Oklahoma.
There we go. Let the dominoes fall.
Sorry, Dabo. What you going to do, Dabo? What you going to do, man? Who they going to get you, Belichick? Who they going to get you this time? They're going to pay Belichick $14 million a year to be your DC? So that's this is a fascinating time, man, in this conference and in this state. You think about what's going on at Miami.
Man.
Well, for
man.
sure, yeah.
Amazing.
But especially like when it comes to Florida State.
Yeah.
So Clemson's lost their DC that we know has been a very vital part of their success, obviously, right? Like he's been their Mickey Andrews. This is like if Bowden had lost Mickey Andrews in 1994 or 95. This is the equivalent of Dabo losing Venables, because Venables has been through the dynasty started when Venables got to Clemson. I'm not saying it can't continue, but that's when it started. That's not a coincidence. So he loses his trusted number 2, the head coach of the defense. So Clemson is in not turmoil, but there's some questions around that program right now. The OC is also up for some head coaching jobs or other jobs. So Dabo's got some, for the first time in a decade, he's got some real, not pressure. It's still Dabo. He's not going anywhere, but there's some fog there about how good Clemson's going to be. It's foggy. Like for 10 years, they've had the best defensive coordinator in the country. Well, they don't have that anymore, and it's not a guarantee that you're going to replace him with a great coordinator, somebody that can recruit and bring in players. So anyway, Clemson's up in the air a little bit. Miami is certainly up in the air. We have no idea what's going on there. And then Napier's a guy from Louisiana Lafayette. So, and then Florida State's obviously 5-7. It's a really fascinating time for Florida State and their rivals. They all have big question marks right now.
I wonder if Dabo's waiting to take Manny, be his DC.
You think that's what it is?
I wonder who the guys are out there that he's going to target. They're going to get somebody good. Although I wonder how them possibly losing their athletic director, that's going to be a long-term thing. I mean, if Dan Radakovich, their athletic director, is being bandied about as being possibly the new Miami athletic director, and this is all part of their big power play to flip Miami's, get Radakovich, get Cristobal, that's pretty good. I'm not going to lie. I know I get the assignment. It's a Florida State podcast. Screw everything that's Miami and Florida. But, it's pretty good. That's not a bad 1-2 punch. The Napier.
Well, I more than anything, I think if they got Cristobal, that's a home run for them. That does not mean it's going to be a home run, right? But that is as good as you could possibly hope to do at Miami. Yeah. You're getting a guy that's won pretty big at Oregon, all things considered. He took over for Willie, and in 4 years they probably won 38 games. Well, I don't know what they did last year because of the COVID, but in the 3 full seasons he's coached, I bet they've won 10 games each year. He's proven he can be a really good recruiter. He's from Miami. He knows the area. He played there. That's a home run hire. What's odd, though, is that all of a sudden they're willing to spend the money. Like, do you think Manny's like, oh, so now y'all open up the checkbooks? Or even Randy Shannon's like, oh, okay, I see now you're going to pay. You wouldn't pay when it was me. You wouldn't let me get great assistance. You weren't invested in the sport. Now all of a sudden you are. Which, look, you need to be. I think Miami sees the writing on the wall, man, especially as the playoffs expand. It's not out of the realm of possibility for Miami to reach the playoffs 2 out of 5 years with a good coach. If it goes to 12, if it goes to 12. So maybe that was the impetus for them to finally spend money on this sport. But it's crazy how little they've wanted to spend over the last 20 years. And now they're going to pay Cristobal $8-9 million a year, which is like Mark Richt, Al Golden. They're all like, oh, awesome. You know what I mean? Cool, man. It's good to know that y'all have that money somewhere. It's finally like they hit rock bottom or wherever it was where they're like, we have to spend money. We have to get this guy. And now I think to the point, again, as we talk on Sunday night into Monday morning, and nothing's been decided yet, they can't lose Cristobal now.
No.
Yeah. What in the world would happen then? You know what I mean? Like, how does Manny still keep going? You're going to go on. You can't. Like, it's out there.
I feel like there's some precedent, though, of somebody flirting and trying to get somebody and striking out and then sticking with their guy, and their guy actually ending up working out. And I can't think of it right now, and it's killing me. But, yeah, it's still, though, even if there is a precedent out there, it's the anomaly. Yeah, to have a lame duck sort of coach. Not even lame duck, but just, have he finished the season 5-1 in his last 6 or something? I think he only lost to Florida State, really?
Won 6 out of their last 7. And the last 2 years, they were 12-5 in the ACC. They got themselves a quarterback. And their only loss to end the year was 4th and 14. Yeah. I mean, he
went 9-4 year 1 at Oregon, 12-2 Rose Bowl appearance, Fiesta Bowl last year. But that was weird. I think they kind of backdoored into the Pac-12 championship game because Colorado or somebody had to forfeit. So he's been to 2 New Year's Six Bowls in 4 seasons there, and they're 10-3 right now. So
yeah, if you take the COVID year away, and even that when they went to the Fiesta Bowl, that's 31 wins in 3 years. Yeah. That's pretty good.
He's 35-13. He's 62-20 overall because of the FIU stint, which is a real thing. It happened, but he then went to the Nick Saban School of Rehabilitation, which Lane Kiffin's a successful graduate of, and a couple other guys.
Now, I have to imagine if Cristobal is going to take the job at Miami, I know this isn't Wake Up Hurricanes, but if he's taking the job at Miami, he has to have some sort of guarantee that they are going to upgrade facilities and they're going to give him a bunch of money to pay assistant coaches.
Well, I like how
there has to be. Why else would you? I know that's where he's from, but look at everybody else that's coached Miami since Butch Davis. They've all been fired within 5 years. All of them. All of them. Even a guy that won a national championship with maybe the best college football team ever assembled, he was fired. Like, it's just been a coach's wasteland for 20 years now. And he knows that. He understands what they're up against. So for him to agree to leave Oregon, where they just print money, and he runs the West Coast. I know Lincoln Riley puts a wrench into that now, but he's run the West Coast since he's been there. To go to Miami and have to recruit against all these teams with those subpar facilities and the lack of funds, that he has to have had some sort of guarantee, because otherwise he's going to have to go be an OC or an O-line coach or something in 5 years when he gets fired.
I mean, all the
Because
coaches
they all get fired.
Well, all these guys, though, weren't really all that great before they got to Miami, and they haven't done anything since they left Miami, with the exception of Mark Richt, obviously leaving Georgia. But, Larry Coker ended up at Texas San Antonio, and he got canned. Al Golden, I think, is a tight ends coach for the Lions, or he was. He might be with the Giants now. Randy Shannon was a DC at UCF and got fired. So it isn't exactly like they've gone and gotten really proven commodities that then have gone on and done bigger, better things as Miami's who brought them down. But yeah, Cristobal, I mean, it's all or nothing with them, with him. So best of not luck to you. Hope it flames out magically. But I don't know, part of me, somebody posted about on the message boards too, I think it was back in day, who used to play ball for Florida State back in the day, that, when Miami's been good, Florida State's also been good. It's causation correlation. It'd be cool if we could both be great. Yeah. I'd rather be great than them, obviously. I'm not rooting for them to be great while we fiddle around and not getting to a bowl game. But maybe there's some weird synergy to where we'll bring out the best in each other. That's just me.
I don't know about that, and I know this won't be a popular take, but I kind of like it when Miami's good. I don't want them to be great. I don't want them to have like 15 first-rounders on a team like they've had in the past. But I do think it's cool when I think it's great when Florida State and Miami are both good.
You need the villain to be dangerous. You need the villain in the movie to be dangerous.
Right.
They haven't been dangerous.
Yeah, so it means something when you beat them.
Yeah.
And I do think there's something to that. I mean, I don't know. I'm sure there were Florida State fans who loved the 47-0 win in '97, and you sacked the quarterback in the goalposts, and it was over before the game started. And you've had some games like that where it was just you completely overmatched them and outmanned them, and it wasn't a competition. But I also think you enjoyed, the 93 win. And even though you lost the 91 and 92 games, those are fun games. Those are awesome games. It is really cool and really good for the sport when Florida State and Miami are both good. And Miami's been so irrelevant for so long. You don't want them to get back to winning national championships every few years, but it would be cool if they had some stability and had a coach that was good and could get them to 8 or 9 wins a year. I think it'd be good for the conference. The conference needs a lift, man, especially, and I know people might not want to hear this, but especially as you get to a 12-team playoff format, you can't be looked at as the worst conference in the country. You can't be looked off as, so what? They went 10-2 in the ACC, big deal. There's nobody in the ACC. So the more teams there are that are pretty good, like Clemson, will be there, Miami. If Miami can get to like 8 or 9 wins and Florida State rises back up, then all of a sudden the ACC has more validity around the conference, and that's what you're going to need if you're 10-2 and trying to sneak into the playoff. So it really, I know people don't want to hear it. You don't want Miami to be great, but you want them to be top 20, 25-ish. Not only does it help the rivalry, but it really helps the conference. That said, you'd rather him hire Mark Richt again or Al Golden again than Cristobal, because Cristobal, there might be a chance that he turns them into a juggernaut. I'm highly doubtful. I'm on the record of saying I don't think that's ever going to happen again at Miami, but I do think this would be as good a hire as they could possibly dream to make.
I get it, everybody. I know it sounds foreign. And again, Courier isn't advocating for it, but this is like fighting fire with the SEC. They all root for each other. Mississippi State fans are rooting for Alabama and Georgia because it gives them prestige. This is the way we have to move forward. It's the way business is being done, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's sad, but it's true. Like, you're going to have a 12-team playoff, and you're going to want 2 ACC teams in that bad boy, maybe 3. And so the more good teams that are in the conference, and not everybody's 6-6, the better that is for everyone. You might beat a 10-2 Miami team, and that's the feather in your cap you need to be the 11 seed or the 2 seed. I don't know, wherever you are. But overall, it probably doesn't. It's better for the conference when Miami is good. And in a weird way, like Aslan said, maybe it is better for Florida State because then that rivalry, if you could get that rivalry to mean something again, like there were kids that committed in the 90s because of Miami and Florida State, like the rivalry. I want to be a part of that game. I want to play in that game. That was a real thing that kids really thought of. Now, you want them to come to Tallahassee. You didn't want them to commit to Miami. I want to play Florida State. You don't want them saying that. But I do think when Miami and Florida State are both good, it would be exceptional for the conference.
Bowl games are set. The playoff is set. So maybe this is the time to finally figure out how this whole sports betting thing works out. And if you don't know where to start, check out BetQL Daily, sponsored by FanDuel. It's the must-listen show for sports bettors and sports fans alike. Again, big fan of the Friday Lightning picks. You know me. I'm Mr. ADD. I need my stuff quick and fast, and they break it down for you in a nice little 10-minute video and give you their picks. They being the host, Joe Ostrowski, Joe Giglio, and Aaron Hawksworth, serving up that wagertainment. It's sports talk that you love while giving you betting insights that you need each weekday. And if you missed out on earlier games, BetQL has got you covered there too, reliving and giving recaps from the biggest recent moments in sports. If you're not sure where to start with sports betting, you're not alone. Grab my hand. Let's go and watch BetQL Daily, presented by FanDuel. You can listen weekdays, 9 a.m. to noon Eastern, live in living color video on Odyssey. That's Audacy. It's Audacity with the IT. Spotify, or your favorite podcast app. Corey, you mentioned it. I don't know what the genesis becomes of these, what the moment is that creates the fear or the put up or shut up moment for some of these programs to put their neck out and make kind of big splashy hires. Napier's contract was released, 7 years, 51. I mean, that's over $7 a year. Yeah. Just so everybody knows, Mike Norvell's base contract is like $215,000 from the university, and then boosters make up the rest of it. And this coming season, I think it's going to be like $400,000. It's basically going to be making total compensation $4,250,000 this upcoming season. Meanwhile, the guy at Florida who fits the profile of who you are, if you're Mike Norvell, a guy that went from a Group of 5 program, won a conference title, is making nearly double what you're making. And then if Miami falls through with the contract, I think Barry Jackson, is that who works for the Miami Herald, was saying 5 years, 40, which good for Miami if they pull that off 5 years. But that's 8 a year. And when Napier's basically asked, what were sort of the things that pulled you to this job, and he mentioned kind of the vision or the permission, basically, that he's asked or been given, or the opportunity to really hire a large staff, like i.e. analyst, support staff, members like that. And I think Andy Staples was asking, hey, this has been something that's been a problem here for 15 years. And he was, pretty much, he was like, hey, no, like it's going to happen now. Like, we're all on the same page about this. Like, what are these, has Florida State hit that moment? Or is Florida State going to hit that moment here after this 2022 season, where if you do bring in a top 10 class maybe now, and then you're building another top 10 class, you're at 7 wins, maybe you beat Miami again, maybe you beat Florida this time around in Clemson, that you're going to have to invest heavily into your head football coach to keep him around? Or, what are these? Florida's not lost in their wilderness, but they're obviously nowhere near where they thought they should be. I just wonder how far is Florida State from that moment, and where do you think these sort of moments are for programs like Florida and Miami? Is it the playoff being 12 teams? Is this the moment where you have to get ready and get ahead of that sort of expansion?
Yeah, look, I would say that all 3 of these programs are about in the same spot. Again, I think Florida State's in a better place than those other 2. I think there's a little more stability there, but it's close. Cristobal is certainly more proven at a Power 5 level than the Florida State and Florida coaches are right now. But I think we all agree we like kind of the trajectory that the Florida State program is on, especially depending on how the next 9 days go. That you'll feel even better about where it's going. But man, when it comes to the playoff, and I wrote about this back in the summer, I know people look at it and think, what does it matter? It's going to be Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State every year. Yeah, you're right. But look at the top 12 in the I didn't even look. Can you pull up real quick? Aslan, look it up. Come on, Aslan, do it. The top 12 in the
CFP?
committee's final rankings.
Yeah, on it. on
Look it up, Aslan. Look it up. Boop, boop.
12th, my guy, Kenny Pickett, Narduzzi, Pitt. 11's Utah, 10's Michigan State, 9 Oklahoma State, Ole Miss is 8th, Baylor 7th, Ohio State 6th, Notre Dame 5th, and then Cincy, Georgia.
So you look at, now Cincy made it already, they're in the real win, but you look at like Ole Miss has never been in the playoff. Baylor's never been in the playoff. Oklahoma State's never been in the playoff. Pitt's never sniffed a playoff, unless you're talking about the Steelers. Like you're talking
Utah.
So you're talking about 5 teams that would be that their whole fan base is like, oh, we made it, we're in it. And then you think about who finished 13th,
right? BYU, Oregon 14, Iowa 15.
So,
Iowa, the Big Ten championship game would have been a huge deal for them.
Exactly right. And but also you look at like BYU and Utah, and it's like, man, they played each other, and BYU beat Utah. So maybe they would have made a different decision if it actually mattered as far as like who got in the tournament. But adding those 12 teams, adding 8 extra teams to the playoffs, gears it up for 10 more programs. Like whoever even finished top 20, like 20th in the country, probably had a game late in the season where if they had won it,
Houston,
they'd be in. Yeah, if Houston beats Cincinnati, they're probably in the playoff. Like that's what they would have been playing for on Saturday. As opposed to just keeping Cincinnati out, they would have been playing to be in it.
And the ACC championship game, although I guess maybe you're an automatic qualifier, but Wake and Pitt, Wake finished 17th, Pitt obviously 12th, so the winner of that game goes in.
So my point with all that is nobody listening to this thinks Florida State is miles behind Wake Forest. Like, oh, right. God, I hope we can catch up with Wake Forest or Pitt. I hope by the end of this decade we can catch up with Pitt. No, if this guy knows what he's doing and puts and can recruit and identify talent, you'll catch up with Pitt tomorrow. And Pitt would be in the playoff right now if there was a 12-team field. So that should give you hope, and that should give everybody hope that you're not that far off. Now, could Pitt win a national championship this year? No, of course not. But imagine Florida State at 12 or 13. Say they win every close game they played. So their only losses were to Wake and whoever else, Jacksonville State. So they make the playoffs as an 11 seed. Okay, they're not going to win the national championship. They lose to whoever the 5 seed is, Georgia probably or somebody if they're doing automatic for the conference champions. You get beat by Georgia, but you can sell to recruits. We just made the playoffs, man. We are a playoff caliber program, and that will beget playoff caliber players because they know it's not a pipe dream that you can get to the playoff. We just did it. Pat Narduzzi could be on the recruiting trail right now selling to kids. We just made the playoff, man. We are a playoff team. So that, to me, we've got to figure out when that's going to happen. If it's next year, probably not. 2-3 years later, I think that's how every program will be judged. I think that's how most coaches will be judged. And that said, you won't feel like you're that far away from relevance. Like right now, Florida State feels like 100 miles away from relevance. But if you only have to get to the top 12 or 15 to be in the conversation, that doesn't seem that far away. You put together 2 strong recruiting classes, you hit the portal, you get an All-American, well, you don't need an All-American quarterback. You need a couple All-Americans that you can recruit or get transferred your way. You're in the conversation. Pitt would be playing in the playoffs, Aslan. Pitt. That's crazy. But that would have happened if we were if that was the current format. So I think that's how you judge things moving forward. I know that's not really your question, but I do think that is something that we all need to keep in mind when it comes to how we're going to be judging these programs in a few years. It's a lot of it comes down to like, are you a playoff caliber team? Are you close to the playoffs?
Yeah.
You can't judge by Alabama and Ohio State, right? Not when you're in a rebuild. That just seems like they're so far ahead of you.
Just rewatching the SEC championship game highlights, I'm just those are different beings, different humans.
I'll tell you this much. Sure looked like Georgia could have used a certain defensive end. They finally face an offense with a pulse in a quarterback that can do something, and all of a sudden, we can't rush the passer.
That kid.
I feel like Jermaine Johnson might have helped them a little bit on Saturday. I'm just throwing that out there, Kirby. Just throwing that out there, buddy.
How many quarterbacks were better than Jordan Travis Saturday? Like Kenny Pickett, Bryce Young.
Yeah. I didn't watch much of the Cincinnati game. But yeah, look, Bryce Young is incredible, man. That was nuts.
He's Jameis Winston with a quicker release. Like he has that same sort
Is
of
it Lith or Lithe?
Lithe, perhaps. So we'll go with you. I think Lithe
It
is
could
like
be
an
either.
actual. I think it's like an actual woodworking machine. Maybe I got it wrong.
Okay,
So.
nice.
Anyway, he's a svelte. I should have said svelte.
Yes.
He's incredible, man. He gets the ball out so fast.
In the play he made to recover the fumble.
Yeah.
Like a one-armed, look, I would have liked the Georgia guy to dive on it instead of picking it up, but there's no way he thought the quarterback that was underneath one of his teammates was going to reach his hand out like he was reaching out of a shallow grave to show people he was alive and just pull the ball back to him. And then, they scored a touchdown a play or two later. Yeah, that was look, I have a Heisman vote. I can't spoil who I voted for. I would never do that. I would never, soil and sully the sanctity of my Heisman vote. But let's just say somebody who played in the Georgia-Alabama game got my first place vote. So we'll just leave it at that. But yeah, that was remarkable what he did. It's awesome that Alabama has another one of those guys. It's fun. It's cool. But they lost their good receiver. I tell you what, man, that tight end for Georgia.
Can we trade all of our tight ends for him? I mean, come on, Kirby.
Would they do a 7-for-1 package deal? Probably not. I think they like what they got in that kid. Napa Valley, by the way, is where he's from.
Really?
Napa Valley, California.
Good for
Can you imagine those winery kids trying to tackle that monster? I mean, are you kidding me? But yeah, so I was telling a buddy of mine we were watching that game, and it was well over, but Bowers was going crazy. I'm like, he might be the best player Georgia has, and they have a lot of really good ones, and he's a freshman. But
he's a freshman?
Not. Yeah, I'm not going to say he's the best offensive player Georgia's ever had, because they've had some running backs go through that program. But he's the best pass catcher in the history of Georgia football.
Whoa.
There's
A.J. Brown?
AJ Green.
Green, sorry.
No, he's better than him. This guy's unbelievable. Whoa. He's like a 19-year-old Travis Kelce. He's incredible. He does it to everyone. And if you watch the Georgia Tech game, I know that's not great.
But hey, if he dropped that one pass and they threw the pick six right after it, it was really tough.
Well, yeah, that's true. He dropped that one in the end zone too. It wasn't really a drop. It would have been an incredible catch, but we were all surprised he didn't make it because it's him. Yeah. But if you watch him, he has a play against Georgia Tech where he takes like a little slant and goes 75 yards and rips through the whole defense where they look like they're running in quicksand trying to chase him. It's like he's the fastest guy on the field, one of the fastest guys on the field too. He's a freak. I just can't believe that guy. But yeah, they lost, so what does it matter?
How about Baylor with a backup quarterback? That's incredible. This Blake Shapen kid goes out there. He's 23 of 28. He completed, his first 18 passes or something ridiculous.
Yeah, it's like a record for the last 15 years. Do you think Manny Diaz was watching that game going, see, that's why I didn't let him score? When Oklahoma State got to the first and goal at the 1, and they just bowed up and actually stopped them. He's like, see, it can be done. You can't stop a team 4 times from the 1.
That was from the 2, actually. That was from the 2, though, because of pass interference, and they put the ball in the 2.
Right. But, yeah, it was the second time they got down, inside the 2. It didn't score a touchdown. So, hey, congrats to Baylor. Sorry, Oklahoma State.
We need to go after one of those quarterbacks, Bohannon or him, if we're not going to get Penix. Yeah, come on.
So
Penix, only one football, guys. Only one football.
That's
that note, though, growing up watching football, the drive, the catch, maybe to a lesser degree, I wasn't around for that one. I always remember Super Bowl 24, the final drive that the 49ers had to go ahead and beat the Bengals. John Taylor caught the touchdown, not Jerry Rice. But, the 2-minute drill was this really climactic, awesome moment in sports where because the way football was, defenses made stops. I don't know how many possessions you had as an offense, but you didn't nearly have as many as you have in this day and age, but you certainly weren't even scoring at the percentage of success conversion rate that you have now. So for Baylor to do what they did is so incredible. That kid should have a statue made for him, and I should know his name. But the 42, the kid that ran down the Oklahoma State running back, he bit and ran downhill and thought the kid was going to run inside. He bounces it outside. He somehow puts his foot in the ground and just full speed chases him parallel to the goal line and pushes him out at the half-yard line. Defenses now, it's incredible to me that happened. And that should be celebrated the same way that you celebrate any sort of game-winning touchdown, right? Because the game-winning touchdown, that stop We'll forget about it in a year, though. That's the way we are. But, man, I hope people in Waco don't.
No, man, that'll be that. I mean, they won the Big 12. That'll be an all-time. That'll be their 4th and 14. Like, that'll be a play they remember forever. Like, Florida State fans still talk about the goal line stand against Kansas, and that was in a 42-0 game. Now that was like 10 plays inside the 5, but still, I think that'll be an all-time play. We'll forget it probably because it's Baylor and Oklahoma State, but those fans will remember it forever. And I'll be honest with you, man, I'm gonna need my running back to maybe get a little north and south at some point, like just
they
lean.
went the first 2 downs. They ran inside.
No, I mean on that particular play, like he ran straight. He ran like it literally like parallel to the goal line. Like I thought once he got near the sideline, instead of racing to the pylon, he would just lean into the guy and say, "I'm stronger than you. I'm going to bully you for a yard and get into this end zone." But he did not do that, and he'll remember that for the rest of his life. He'll remember that play for the rest of his life for sure.
The clutch shot, the biggest hits. It's time for the Zaxby's Indescribably Good
Player of the week.
You heard the man. It is time for the Zaxby's Indescribably Good Play of the Week. Corey Clark, I give you the first honor.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the FSU soccer team who is playing tonight for another national championship.
Let's go.
They're playing BYU for their third. It would be the third national championship if they can win it. BYU knocked off Santa Clara out in Santa Clara, and Santa Clara was the defending champion. So BYU's no joke by any stretch. They can certainly win, but I'm going to give it to Jalen Howell. She's the captain. She's one of the best players Florida State's ever had. And in that game against Rutgers, my soccer parlance. In that match against Rutgers, late in the second half, I think there was 15, 20 minutes left. She took a corner, kind of corralled it. It bounced around there in front of the goal. It was a weird, odd-looking play, and she just knocked it in the back of the net for a 1-0 lead. The keeper, Michelle Roque. I can never forget how to. Roque, there you go. Roque is okay. She could be up there, too, because she made a couple really good saves there in the final 10 minutes that preserved the win. And Krikorian now tonight goes for championship number 3.
I'm going to send a shout-out to Trayshawn Ward 1.0, the original, Devontae Freeman, our guy out of the league for a little bit. I think he played last season. He got a handful of carries made for the Giants. But he's actually an important part of the Baltimore Ravens offense. Their opening touchdown drive of the game was a 16-play, 99-yard drive that took up 10 minutes of clock, and it was capped off by Devontae running for a 3-yard touchdown. So shout out to him. Salute to Devontae staying relevant out there. I think that's career touchdown 38 for him. He's got over 5,000 yards rushing in the NFL. So shout out to our guy Devontae Freeman. And shout out to the Lady Noles soccer team. What time is the finals tonight, Corey?
Yeah, let me look that up for you real quick, Aslan. I just did. It's 8 o'clock tonight.
Ooh, okay.
So 5 o'clock out there, though. So you can deal with some shadows in the early part of the game. I don't know how much that affects a soccer ball, but you might have to deal with some West Coast shadows for the first half out there against BYU.
Zaxby's Indescribably Good, everybody. Those plays were our Zaxby's Indescribably Good plays of the week, courtesy of Jalen Howell and Devontae Freeman. Corey, you were saying.
I was going to say that if Santa Clara had won, they would have played on Sunday night because BYU athletics doesn't play on Sunday because of the Mormon religion. It was moved to Monday. Just thought that was interesting that Florida State, not only when they won their game, they didn't know who they were going to play. They didn't know when they were going to play. But now they do, and it's tonight against BYU.
I feel good about this one. Better than I did last year.
I don't know. I felt pretty good about the one last year, too, and then that was I kind of would have liked them to play Santa Clara again just because that was such a ridiculous loss they had, like a painful, bitter loss that it kind of felt like it was stolen from them, that you could get some revenge in their house. But, hey, a championship's a championship, and you got to win one more, and you're the national champs.
Yeah. All right, and before we go, so the college football playoff, I don't like the seeding, Corey. Are you fine with the seeding?
I have a buddy that's a Michigan fan, and when they did what they did to Iowa, I'm like, man, if they didn't care about rematches, which I know they do,
why should they, though?
They shouldn't. They absolutely shouldn't.
Yeah.
Michigan should be one, and Michigan should be playing Cincinnati, and Alabama should be playing Georgia again. And I would have thought that would have been fair. I don't think anybody who's going to complain about that. Like Michigan not only beat Ohio State, their game they lost to Michigan State was a game they led by I think 17, or they led by at least 2 touchdowns in that game. And I know there was like a controversial call in that game too about a fumble, and that was their only loss. They beat Ohio State. They beat the bejesus out of Iowa in back-to-back games. That was, to me, that was more impressive than I know Alabama beat Georgia. I think we understand now that maybe Georgia's defense isn't the best of all time. But I think beating Ohio State and Iowa back-to-back the way Michigan did is more impressive than Alabama squeaking by Auburn and then beating Georgia. Plus, Alabama almost lost to Auburn. They almost lost to Arkansas. They almost lost to Florida. Like they had a bunch of near misses against not good teams. A bunch of 6. Then they lost to an 8-4 team. So I don't know. I think if you look at the totality of the schedule and what they did, I think Michigan had a better season. I think Michigan's wins were more impressive, and I think their loss was better than Alabama's loss. But I also understand how it works, and they're going to come out and say, "No, we didn't." I thought it was funny when the playoff spokesman was like, "Yeah, we didn't really talk about it being a rematch or not wanting to avoid it." Yeah, sure you didn't. Sure you didn't. Nobody that never came up. If we put Alabama 2, then they're going to just play Georgia again. Do we want that? Yeah, I'm sure that never came up in that meeting room at all. So I do think that Georgia Alabama in the semifinals would have made more sense. I think that was I think Michigan deserved to play Cincinnati and not have to play Georgia. But I don't know. I people can say it doesn't matter because it's still the same 4 teams. It's just a different order. Well, tell that to like 14 Florida State. Like that order definitely mattered. If Florida State, undefeated Florida State, was number 1 like they should have been, then they play in New Orleans against Ohio State's 3rd string quarterback. Alabama goes out to Pasadena and beats the crap out of Mariota, and then it's Florida State Alabama for the national championship, and we know that Alabama team wasn't great. So all that matters. Like all that matters. The seeding matters. Where you play matters, and I think they kind of got that wrong. But whatever. I'm not on the committee. They haven't elected me yet.
All right. Well, I thought we were gonna disagree on this one, but part of me the difficult thing is like the mental gymnastics of Michigan entered the week number 2. They did what they did, and then they somehow your reward is you get a pissed off team that plays right into what you do.
Yes.
And they've got a really good defense that's probably going to rise to the challenge. You're a 7.5-point underdog. Alabama's a 13-point favorite over Cincinnati. So I get it. Like Alabama and Georgia, the winner, they're the best teams in the nation. Like I get it, but I don't know.
think so, man. I think
give somebody a fighting chance, man. Give somebody a fighting chance besides the SEC for once.
I think Michigan slowing Alabama to what they did to Ohio State. I think is more impressive than what Alabama did to Georgia. Michigan ran all over them. That's a good Ohio State team, and those receivers are incredible. And Michigan, for the most part, kind of kept them in check until the 4th quarter when they were just kind of playing back and nursing a lead. Man, Michigan's good. And I just think I think that they deserve to be number 1. They're number 2. Number 1 lost. They beat the number 13 team in the country by 39 points after beating a top 5 Ohio State team or top 3 Ohio State team. Yeah, it's just basically they were avoiding a rematch, which doesn't make sense because odds are, if you look at the odds makers, Alabama and Georgia are going to play again 10 days after that anyway.
Yeah. I'm just saying,
so why not just make them play in the semifinals?
Yeah. I mean, Friday night, you tell Alabama, listen, the only way you're in this thing is if you beat Georgia, but you have to beat them twice to get into the national title game. Who on that roster is saying no? And then Georgia, you could have put the dragon away. You could have slayed the dragon. Nobody had to worry about them in your own backyard. And you lost them. So you have to you made your bed. Now you need to lie in it. You got to play them again. But no, they get Michigan, and then Alabama is going to be able to tune up Cincinnati, and we'll get
Alabama. Yeah, that's what bothers me is Alabama hasn't been the best team in the country this year, from start to finish. Again, they struggled with Florida. They struggled with Arkansas. They obviously struggled with A&M. They lost to an 8-4 team. Michigan lost to a 10-win team. And then they beat Georgia. That's great, but they struggle with Auburn. They struggle with a 6-6 team. So it's because they beat Georgia, they automatically become the number 1 team in the country. Great. So then they get I mean, I'm not trying to besmirch Cincinnati. I know they're a good team. I know they'll play hard. Alabama basically waltzes into the finals because of one game. Because of they played Georgia. Like, what if Stetson Bennett doesn't throw the pick six and it's just a 10-point game? Yeah. Is it because it was 17 points? Because I watched that game. Alabama's really good. They're not 17 points better than Georgia. Georgia had 3 turnovers. Alabama had none. That's the difference in the game. It's not like Georgia was shut down on offense. Alabama just has some really incredible skill players. And, one of those guys got hurt, which is a bummer. He's out for the year with ACL, Minchie. So that bodes well for Georgia if they play him again. But, yeah, man, I just thought – and, you guys know I went to Georgia. Obviously, you'd rather play Michigan in the semifinal than Alabama again. I just think it's better for the sport because the odds are it's going to be Georgia-Alabama again for the national championship. And I think it would be better TV if it was Alabama-Michigan or Georgia-Michigan for the national championship. Somebody different. And that Michigan team's legit, man. I don't think either one of those teams is just going to run all over Michigan. I think that team's pretty darn good.
I don't know about
what are you going to do?
Offense, though. Yeah, it would have been nice if they would have pitted the champion of the Midwest versus the champion of the South.
Yeah.
Let Alabama and Georgia play it out.
In the championship game.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. I just thought Michigan deserved an easier first matchup than Alabama did on the totality of the season. Before we go, we got to mention it. It was ugly, but the basketball team fell on Saturday in the ACC home opener to Syracuse. And if you want to know why, if you're tuned in, listening, like what's wrong with the Florida State basketball team? Why are they struggling? They lost to Purdue by 30, and then they lose at home to an average Syracuse team, which this is a very average Syracuse team. They went 4 for 30 on three-pointers.
Oh, really?
Against a zone. And if you shoot 4 for 30 from three-point range, you are going to lose you're going to lose every game. It's crazy it was as close as it was because I don't know how Florida State should – I mean, that's impossible to be that bad. Like Wilkes and Polite together were 0 for 9. Those are your two best shooters. That's impossibly bad. It's impossibly bad to shoot 4 for 30 from three-point range, and that's why they lost. If you hit 2 of those, if you only shoot 6 of 30, you win the game. But they didn't, and so now they're 0-1 in conference, and they're reeling, and they're looking for answers, and we'll see if they have any.
Well, really, they're reeling. They're looking for answers. Are we hitting the panic button?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's not just that they're losing because until Saturday they had lost to 2 top 20 teams, including Purdue, who's about to be number 1 in the country. But they lost by 31. Like, they got obliterated in the second half of that game. That's not great. They got obliterated in the second half of the Florida game. That's not great. And then in the second half against Syracuse, after taking a lead into halftime, they were up 32-22 at one point. They scored like 10 points in the first 12 minutes of the second half. And so you're wondering, when you lose somebody like MJ Walker and you lose a Scotty Barnes, you lose these guys that are Balsa even, Raekwon. I mean, you lost a lot off that team, and guys that could go get their own buckets, guys that could make big plays on either end of the court, guys who stepped up to end runs, to end droughts. And then you look at, okay, who do you have now? You have Caleb Mills, who that guy had, what do you have? I think he had 16 in that game. He played well. He shot well. Who else do you have on the team that's proven?
Anthony Polite.
You know what I mean? Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Anthony Polite played 30 minutes. I'm looking it up now. He played 30 minutes and scored 6 points and was 0 of 5 from 3. You're not going to beat anybody of significance if Anthony Polite is going to go 0 from 3. He's got to be a guy that scores you 10 or 12 points a game and hits 2 or 3 threes.
And Malik
that's
was
just what his
2
role
of 9,
is.
2 of 7 from the behind 3. So
yeah, and Cameron Fletcher only played 5 minutes. Raekwon Evans actually didn't have a terrible game. He had 9 points, but he missed a critical free throw there at the end of the game or near the end of the game. They've got, Caleb Mills played 38 minutes, which when you know what Leonard Hamilton's trying to do, the fact that he's playing a kid 38 minutes tells you all you need to know about what he thinks of his rotation right now and his depth. He doesn't like it because Trent Forrest never played 38 minutes. Scotty Barnes was the number 4 pick in the draft and might be the rookie of the year. He averaged 24 minutes a game. So the fact that Caleb Mills is playing 38 minutes tells you what he thinks of his rotation right now, and he's got to play that guy a ton, which is not what he wants to do. So hopefully they can figure it out, and some of the new guys can start. Why even the old guys like Wilkes and Polite need to start playing a lot better. They got to make shots, and you hope some of the new guys can step up. Like Matthew Cleveland was 2 of 6, missed both of his 3-pointers. Butler was 0 of 5. Like you're going to have the freshmen. Either the veterans are going to have to start playing like veterans, or the freshmen are going to have to step up. But it is December 5th or December 6th, so they got time. This has just been an ugly stretch when you think about almost losing to Boston, needing to tip in overtime to win that game, getting destroyed by Purdue, and then losing at home to an average Syracuse team that gave up 100 points to Colgate earlier in the year.
And that snaps the conference home win streak too, right? Since like the Duke game.
Yeah,
that's Zion and all those guys.
So again, it's it matters how you play in March a lot more than what you do in December. But you don't want to squander opportunities where every game you're playing in February and March is to try to get off the bubble. And this was a game you kind of needed to win. You had a nice lead in the first half, even though you weren't shooting well. And then you just couldn't make any shots until like the final 2 or 3 minutes.
Well, no matter what happens, they're still Jacksonville Classic champs. So
they can't ever take that away from them, Aslan.
They cannot.
Right. The inaugural Jacksonville Classic champs.
Yeah. Some things I want to dive into later this week as we're going over. Patience. People were comparing the rise of Jim Harbaugh to how we need to treat Mike Norvell, and then also people panicking about money with Miami and Florida throwing these dollars. And does Florida State have the money? Well, I think we do. We'll talk about it later on this week. Jeff Cameron coming up 1 to 3 o'clock. Do stay connected to warchant.com as we get closer to National Signing Day. A potential athletic director could be named as early as Monday morning. We will be ahead of the curve on all that sort of stuff over at warchant.com. Use the promo code warchant30 if you're not already a member. Maybe we have a new linebacker coach. Who knows? But if you stay connected to warchant.com, you'll know that's how it works, everybody. He's Corey. I'm Aslan. We're going to get back to work, do some other stuff for you. Have a great day. This has been Wake Up Warchant, fueled by DeLuna Coffee. The best bits of Florida, the Noles, no snow, no state income tax, and the white sands of the Gulf beaches. And the White Sands Breakfast Blend from DeLuna Coffee. A combination of 5 different beans, some roasted to a light roast, some to a dark roast. The end product, a perfect blend that will perk you up better than a day on the beach. Visit DeLunaCoffee.com to browse all their top shelf blends and check out their Facebook and Instagram. DeLuna Coffee, all one word. DeLuna Coffee, proudly owned and operated by the Lemmix family. Loyal and passionate FSU alums.